asked, what would you view as the ideal interaction between product ops and program management?
That's a very interesting question. I personally have gone through a lot in the past. So, when I started earlier, we have a role called a product program management. So it's like the product ops and also program management. And then later on, we've gone through the phases of where you have a technical program management, mostly working with engineering and scrums and so on. And then you have a product strategy and operations, which we're doing a broader role and more around the structure, function, strategic planning, and a launch, less about the delivery. And then I also went through scenarios where, I run both functions, both program management, technical program management, and also product operations. So I think it varies often depending on the size of your team and the company. When the companies are less than a couple thousand people, having them under one umbrella makes more sense because there's less specialization. There's a lot of cross in terms of coverage and specialty. But I also understand that sometimes the technical program managers are really focusing on the engineering, velocity, bug count, release quality, and around the tech side of things. Then product ops really just be a really good partnership and complementary role in working on. So think about the sign of calling, right? So execution, go to program management, the planning, prioritization, the fuzziness, alignment, strategic allocation goes to product operations. That's one type of structure. The other type of structure is sort of like less specialization. You can grow across the board to really go from the very, very beginning of the strategic alignment to the initiatives to the execution. Now, there another school of thoughts or practices is that product ops almost like act as a center of excellence, meaning they will be working with the program management team who would be a lot focusing on the planning and delivery and the communication, but product ops will become a sort of the process, data, and structure sort of the focus to make sure we have the best practice, to make sure the team has the data and the voice customer access to it, and then really leave program management to do the cross-team collaboration, the launches, and then the planning and delivery. So it really varies a lot by organization. I think there, for a large part, it's really depending on your current program management functions focus, as well as their capacity of bandwidth. And that product ops would be kind of working with them to figure out what's the best handoff as well as the partnership.
Great, thank you. And then we did have a follow-up question to where product operations sits in the org. So have you seen product operations teams reporting into operations, and what are your thoughts on that structure?
I think that some of the team, not very common, some of them did have that kind of structure in a way that operations is, the role operations can be defined very broadly. So some of the operations actually focusing on like strategic operations. Are they focusing on business operations? It has things to do with the data and the launches and the strategic planning. And then product ops reporting to their function seems to make sense, especially if they have program managers does the delivery and a more of like defined role and working with engineering more closely. Some of the operations also does like a budget and headcount, and product ops could also expand into that function as well. So I would say it is not very common, but it does happen because the operations role is so varied. I think that ultimately is to say, are these pieces in place in terms of enabling team, align vertically, and enable cross-functional collaboration? If these pieces are not in place, then it's a good time to identify the gaps and to figure out who or role and functional team will be filling these gaps. And that would be a good indicator, say, should product operations reporting to product, because there are key gaps in this role that is not being fulfilled by operations outside the charter of the operations. Or if you already have a program management, does this function, and product operations are more focusing on the strategic planning, orchestra launch, and getting data, getting VOC, then it may make sense to be part of the operations. So it really depend on the gaps, who's filling the gaps, and then where's the best to fill those gaps.